Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to Trend Micro's free webinar on secure learning, setting up your home. I am Bobby Claudio, and I'll be your moderator for today. Very quickly, please type in where you are coming from or joining us from in the chat section. So far, when I checked earlier, I have people from schools, people from Batangas. Okay, let me just check the chat window really quick. From Cebu, Quezon City, from Makati. Okay, TUP. Hello, everyone. From Laguna and Cavite. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we're very happy that you are here. This session is focused on how you can set up your home to make sure that it is conducive for your kids' learning and for the rest of the household. We hope you find it helpful, and at the end of the session, we will have a Q&A portion, and we encourage you to send in your questions using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So here are the tools you can use to communicate with us. You'll see both the chat and the Q&A buttons at the bottom of the screen. And please use the chat section if you need to send us any feedback during the webinar. The Q&A section is where you send in your questions. You can post them at any time throughout the webinar, but in order to manage our limited time, they will be answered at the end. Also, kindly include the slide number in your question so that we will be guided when answering them. Please do expect that at the end during the Q&A portion, some of our panelists, namely Sir Alan Pauco, will be helping answering some of the questions. We'll also use the upvote feature of Zoom. If you have the same question, just click on the like button and the questions with the most number of likes will be prioritized during the Q&A portion. And you may also add more details to the question by using the comment button. Poll questions will be posted from time to time. A separated window will pop up rather to show the polling question. And all you have to do is to select your answer from the list and then click submit. The results of the poll will be shown after. Just click close when you're done viewing the results. At the end of the webinar, you will be automatically routed to a survey form. And for those who will need a certificate for attendance, we advise you to fill up the survey after the webinar. Your feedback, of course, is very valuable to us and will help improve our succeeding webinars. So I just want to remind everyone that you will need to answer the survey to get your e-certificate. So it's very important that you answer the survey. Access to the recording of this session, key takeaways, and succeeding webinars will be announced in our Facebook pages at Trend Micro Careers Philippines, and click right. You can also send us a message if you want to request a topic for us to cover in our next webinar. And please feel free to like and follow our pages. So this is a sample of the certificate that you will get, which will be sent a week after this session. Just please make sure that you answer the survey at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let me introduce our speaker for this morning. Our speaker for today, for this morning, is Nestle Angeles. Nestle is a graduate of computer engineering and is a program manager in Trend Micro. She's been with the company for 15 years now. She says, and I quote, "Working in the IT and cybersecurity industry is equally challenging and worthwhile, and it's the same with motherhood." Nestle is a mom of 2 lovely daughters. So ladies and gentlemen, I now pass you on to Nestle. Nes, I'm going to stop my share so you can share your screen.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Let me just quickly pull my slides. Okay. So hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm Nestle Angeles. I am a wife and a mom of 2 beautiful girls you see in the picture. My eldest is an incoming grade 1, while my youngest didn't get the chance to go to school yet. So we were supposed to enroll this year, but you know, with everything that happened, it didn't push through. So just to show you that I am not recording, and this is really a live video session. Hello, hi everyone. So I'm Nestle, I'll be your speaker for today. Okay, because this is a webinar session, there are some features that are not available to you as much as I would want to see your lovely faces. The video for the attendees is not available. And I would also turn off the video soon because we want to save on your download bandwidth. So we don't want to push your internet connection so much. So the video is not going to be available. Yeah, so we're almost 1,000 people here today. So doing it in Zoom kind of lessens the stage fright a bit, but I must admit there's still some. So if we're physically seeing each other, I would imagine that we'll be filling up quite a large size auditorium, right? So different times, folks. Let me stop my video. Okay, so just to share with you how is our setup at home right now. In March, my daughter's school suddenly emailed us on a Monday night that they would officially stop classes because of the pandemic. So we really understand that it was for their safety, but at the same time, we were saddened that they didn't even get to say goodbyes with their teachers and their classmates. So my daughter was a kinder, so she wasn't able to have her moving up ceremonies to grade 1 even. So I don't know if you guys relate. While all these things is happening, our work also advised us that we have to work from home abruptly. So we have to set up everything. Most of the kids' usual summer activities are also not available, right? Like when we do summer camps or maybe lessons. But there were actually a lot of teachers who stepped up and adjusted quickly. Some even offered Facebook Live classes for free. While it's great, right, it keeps the kids busy, it also imposes a challenge to us parents because we have to juggle now work, doing errands, and then setting up these classes for them. Since it's June now, some of you may even be starting school already or started classes. And I hope this session would help us navigate to this new kind of learning platform we all are going to be using this school year, all for teachers, students, and parents alike. Okay, since I have introduced myself, I want to get to know you more, and I'm asking the help of Bob once again to launch a poll for you.
Okay, thank you, Ness. So, as mentioned earlier, we have polling questions, and the first poll question is which one describes you the best? So, the selections are A, I'm a teacher, B, I'm a parent, C, I'm both a teacher and a parent, D, I'm a student, E, I have someone at home who does online learning, and F, none of the above. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to launch the poll, and you have 15 seconds to answer. Okay, so as soon as you see the poll question, please answer. Okay, so the seconds are up. Let me just share the results. All right, so most of you are teachers. So welcome, teachers. As we know, of course, the second parent to children are teachers. And well, I'm very happy that you guys are here with us. Okay, so let me just stop the share. And we have a second one. Which one describes your family best? So the selection or the choices are A, it feels more crowded in our home and on our network. B, I'm allowing more screen time than ever before. C, I cannot wait until things go back to normal. D, help. And E, all of the above. So as soon as you see the poll question, please answer. You have 15 seconds. Okay, so our time is up. Let me just share the results. All right. So most of you, yeah, I do agree as well, said, I cannot wait until things go back to normal. Okay. All right. So I turn you back to Nes.
Okay, thanks, Bobby. So most of you guys cannot wait to for things to go back to normal or all of the above, which is saying help. You need help on this current setup or situation. So I really hope that this session would help us navigate through this new kind of learning. Today, we are going to touch on these topics. So being on inside and online means, number one, uh, we're really starting to feel the confines of the physical space we're inhabiting and also being on screens, right? So most of you are teachers. I'm not sure if you're going to be doing your lessons from home or is it going to be in school, but defining the physical spaces if you're bounded in your home is very important. Next one is that we're going to be using our bodies in ways that maybe aren't so healthy, like we're going to be sitting around all day and we don't get to walk, right, or exercise. So maybe we need to consider ways that might be a little healthier for that increased time in front of your computer or laptops online. Next one is, some of you are concerned about the bandwidth on the network in your home. So this is one of the changes. And the rules that you may have had placed with your children, screen time now are being reconsidered and rewritten too. And lastly, even though we're all spending that much time more online, it doesn't mean we forget the importance of being good digital citizens and making sure our kids are doing the same. So this will be our topics for today. So good digital citizenship, as we've always talked about, is comprised of accepting the fact that we should be spending time online. I mean, can you imagine, guys, if this pandemic happens like 20 years ago, right? So the internet wouldn't be the same. There's no social media yet, maybe no online shopping, right? No video calls with friends and family. So Trend Micro has always been an advocate of internet safety. It's not just our advocacy, it's actually our mission. Using online learning now is very important for our kids. It's important for their future, it's important for us. But while we and they are there, to remember to be safe, be kind, and be savvy with it. So today we're going to focus on how we can coexist with the family members in our house while we're all online together. And that is comprised of three things: how we set up the environment, how we set the rules, and how we set the right example for the children in the house. Here are some questions or statements maybe you are hearing from home. Can I get a yes in the chat if you've been experiencing this? Just so I know I'm not alone. I'm not sure if you have seen this very cute video in 2017. Have you guys seen this? Can you chat yes if you have seen this cute video? Yep, most of you guys saw this video. So it's actually an interview in 2017, live via television. And there was this very cute girl who walked in while her dad was having the interview. And she walked in prancing around. I don't remember if she was dancing, but it was really, really endearing. It's funny how now we're in the same situation as him, right? Some of you may be doing lessons or your meetings with your work, and there's interruptions that's going on. While it's acceptable, I mean, honestly, I don't mind if I have someone in the meeting and then there's background noise, or maybe there was an interruption with the kid going to the parent. We're all in the same boat, so it's understandable, but it's also distracting, right? If you're presenting, you could lose your train of thought while you are teaching or presenting. So first, we have to talk about setting up the environment, the physical space of where you're going to do your work. So if you're like me, you've never done work from home before, I'm sure you need to think about these things at first, right? You need to set up a nice quiet place where you can get your work done. Just to describe our living conditions, we actually live in a one-bedroom condominium. It's quite cramped, and there's a lot of us at home. But you know, we're grateful that at this time we're all together, we're safe in a quiet community. So when this started, actually, my husband and I are working. My husband didn't even have a dedicated workspace yet, because we thought that, hey, you know, this only will last for a couple of weeks. But after a month, you know, of him working in the sofa or in the coffee table, we figured out that we really have to set up something for him, because it's going to really suffer his productivity, his posture. And that goes for all of us, right? For parents working from home, or even the kids who would be doing virtual learning, or for the teachers who would be teaching from your homes. So it would be also best to communicate your schedule with the household so they know when important meetings, such as this one, or lessons are happening. Next one is to use headphones. Not only to keep your business conversations private because they're, the household can hear everything, but also for the kids who might be playing games. A mic is also closer to your mouth, right? As compared to you when you don't use a headphones. So it's really recommended. The third one is adequate lighting. So same with our kids. If they don't have a dedicated space yet, as the school year is starting, it's now a good time to think about it. We also invested a desk for our daughter so she would have her school things, her tablet ready with adequate lighting for when she is writing or reading so her eyesight won't suffer. Again, good seating with good back support for both games and work. Next one is take a visual break. So don't forget to take your eyes off the screen. We say every 30 minutes for 30 seconds, just look away and focus your eyes to something else aside from your screen. And lastly, if you can get up and move, go outside, even just in your backyard, right? If you have a yard, just to stretch and feel some fresh air. Okay, now that we have talked about setting up your environment, we're now going to go to the network, and that obviously needs the internet connection. So I'm going to ask Bob's help again to launch the poll with this question. Do you know how to access or configure your router? Bob, can you launch the poll, please? Okay, I hope you were able to vote already. So let's end the poll. And the result is, yes, 59% of you knows how to configure or access the router, which is great, right? So I quite know a little bit, but my husband really takes over these things because he likes doing this for me. So it's very nice that majority, at least more than half of you knows how to do it. So it's very important actually. So we're going to talk about it. So keep your network running. So step one, okay, is to limit access. You need to know how to get into the router. There's a sticker on the side of the router, usually on the back underneath somewhere, that says what your credentials are and how to log into the router. So immediately once you set it up, change the password. Okay, don't stick to the default password that comes with the box because you don't want anyone who can visually see your router know what's going on. Limit the access so that only you are the administrator. Not only do you want to limit the access, but you also want to turn off remote administration in your router so no one from the outside has access to the router configuration. Step two, separate the devices that are on your network. I don't know if you've been doing this, but nowadays there's a lot of devices that needs internet connection, like your household's phone, the TV for Netflix, YouTube, right? The key here is that once you're home on a work machine, it's important to separate your work from everything else. Every router allows you to have a guest network to put all the devices of your kids, game consoles, everything on the guest network, and you have the main network to yourself for your work so that you don't commingle data. Okay, so it's important to keep your data safe and confidential as it should be. Step three is the Wi-Fi extender. So you may be in a situation where some of your areas in your home, the Wi-Fi signal is not as strong. So personally, I also experienced this, and having a Wi-Fi extender solved the problem. So if this happens to you, like you have areas where you work and the Wi-Fi signal is not as strong, you could get a Wi-Fi extender in our good old friendly Lazada and Shopee, which has been keeping me busy. Step four is to stagger the use of internet if possible. So if you've got, say, a lot of kids at home who are all trying to stream Netflix while you're trying to do something that requires a lot of bandwidth, you can assign different hours to different things. Like for us personally, mornings are where most of our meetings are. So we try to keep the kids off the TV at that time. Maybe they can do artwork or just play among themselves offline. Okay, so there you have it, how to configure the router. Next one is secure everything. Now that you have everything set up, we want to secure everything. Having security software on all the devices, that includes your mobile phones. There are some that's free and some you pay for. Just ensure that you're protecting every device that's accessing the internet. That includes even the mobile phones. So the next one is to turn off your firewall. A firewall is something that monitors incoming and outgoing network traffic and permits the block's data packets based on a set of security rules. So parents or teachers, if you're using Windows or Mac, make sure that's on so you can protect the data. Next one is to use strong and long passwords. So I cannot stress this enough. Last week's session, actually, if you were there was a section about passwords. It has a pretty cool demo about the strength of the password and how long would it take for a hacker to hack your passwords. So sayang if you missed it, but the tools are available online. So you don't want to use a word that can be found in a dictionary, as that is going to be easily hacked. We'll talk about this again later in the presentation. Next one is the multi-factor authentication, which is basically two things: something you know and something you have. So something you know is a password. Something you have maybe is a fingerprint. It may be a verification code that gets sent to your phone or email account. So a lot of services do that to authenticate. If you've been using your credit cards or you're setting up applications for the first time, it's going to send your phone an OTP, right? The one-time password. So that is multi-factor authentication. And lastly, VPN, which is a virtual private network. So the virtual private network is an encrypted tunnel between two devices that lets you access every website and online service privately and securely. So for your kids' learning, I would say that for teachers here, if you don't have a VPN, suggest to your school to have it set up. So like for example, in our work in Trend Micro, internal websites are not available through external internet. So you have to first log in to the VPN so that you can get into the company's internal network. So that's our setup for our work. So I suggest for the schools to also do this. Okay, guys. So this next slide is actually the reason why I feel so passionately about talking to you on this topic. So it's a little heavy. So a word of caution, especially for parents here. I know that some in the poll, you mentioned that you were a parent. So why are we doing this in the first place? Why do we have to secure everything? So just recently, actually, this video is quite recent. It's in YouTube on February 2020. So there was a mom who was 37 years old, and she belonged to a project, this one, the Stonefish Project. So what they did is they're trying to show the dangers that our kids are facing in social media and platforms like Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. So what this mom did is she went undercover. She used applications to make her face look younger. So she disguised herself as an 11-year-old to expose the dangers of social media to young kids. And would you believe it, after just minutes of setting up a public account in Instagram, there was already a lot of chats going to that mom, with really malicious intent. Okay, so that's very scary for me and I'm sure for you too, as a parent of two young girls. Um, Personally, I think this is really important. So that's why I'm so passionate about security because, I mean, if your password gets cracked and your information gets stolen, that's one thing. But for me, this is really more scary and valuable in a sense. Actually, there was a Filipino version of this. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a YouTube ad wherein there was a little girl, and all this time I thought that she was talking to her dad. I don't know if you've seen it. Can you chat in the button? Yes, if you've seen it. And she was talking to her dad, telling her about her day, telling her about her friends, problems at school, asking help for her homework. And when nighttime came, the supposed dad asked her to try on her school costume. And then that's when things got scary because it turns out that it was not the dad after all, but someone that the student is talking to online, a stranger, an old man who the girl was talking to. So really, it's a real threat out there, actually. So now that we got that out of the way, right? I just reminded you of the purpose why we really have to do this. The next one is to set up parental controls. So you have already set up your network optimally. You have everything locked down and secured. But how do you now make sure that the kids are still sticking on the things that would be most appropriate for them? Parental controls come under a lot of different names, generally called parental controls. Often the word family settings is used too. It's important to consider the use of this. They're much better than they were in the past. So you can manage age appropriate content so the kids aren't seeing things that they shouldn't. Limit app purchasing because you don't want your kids just clicking everything on iTunes or Google Play Store. And it allows you to manage the amount of time that they're online and then monitor what it is that they're doing. Again, it depends on what device or app we're talking about, but you'll find those kinds of parental controls or family settings available to you. Within routers, within devices themselves, like gaming and mobile devices, through your ISP, so you can potentially avail of additional service if you have to pay for them. App stores have them, and the sites and the app themselves. Okay, so what does this mean for you as a parent or a guardian? It means it needs a little bit of work. Maybe you just have to spend 10 extra minutes the first time you say to a new game or a new app or a new device. Spend that time upfront and it will make things a lot easier for you with your kids. Okay? If you do a quick search on an app asking how do I set up parental controls, you'll find a lot at your fingertips. But I want to show you a couple of examples within iOS devices. So iOS, so Apple devices used to refer this as restrictions, but now it is called screen time. And within screen time, you go to your settings, you will see any family member that's connected to your iTunes account under family. So the kids' name here are blocked for privacy, but if I click any one of them, I would be led into all kinds of ways that I can either manage the amount of time that they're on it, and when they're on it, the actual hours that they're on it, the kind of content that they can download from the App Store, if I allow them to download from the App Store, and so on. So spend time again and again. Remember that this is very user-friendly. Next, TikTok. Okay, so along with the Dalgona coffees and the ube cheese pandesal, I think TikTok has really gained popularity, right, during this pandemic. So everybody is using it. For a while, me and the kids also tried doing TikTok. So they dance the fight song for our frontliners and the savage dance. But I honestly say when I didn't have parental control set up, I feel uncomfortable when they viewed TikTok by themselves. I think some of the video shares may be too mature for them in language or even the dances, or maybe there's violence also. So TikTok actually now introduced the setting called family pairing, which is available to all of us in every part of the world. This allows you as a parent to take the baby step of saying, okay, I will let you use it, especially for kids who have classmates, right, doing the TikTok. So where can you get the peace of mind that they're really doing it right? So once you say yes, I highly recommend that you go into settings, select digital well-being, select family planning, and family preparing, because it allows you to restrict not only the time that they're on, but all kinds of content that you don't want them seeing, things that are perhaps not child-friendly. So take the time to do that. Then scan your child's phone off your phone, and that is what causes it to be paired. So once you're paired, you have some control. So take advantage of these. Okay, so now that we've talked about parental control, we have to set up good habits. So next, we want to discuss the good habits that you have to be in place. First one is to update software Wednesday morning. So I do hope you're taking down notes. Why? Because it's usually on the back of Microsoft Patch Tuesday, when all of the operating systems are being updated. So when Microsoft updates, applications would also want to update. So make sure that you update everything Wednesday and everything still works. Next. We talked a little about this before. Using your passwords, it's best to use phrases for your password. So our favorite example here is might need to buy more toilet paper soon. So did you see how that's translates into a password? So don't use this anymore, okay? So, because it's available publicly. But please don't use the word password as a password. That's really bad because it's so easy to crack. It's so easy to hack. So think of passwords that are not available in your social media, like the names of your, maybe your spouse, your birthday, your anniversary. So I'm just challenging you, to think more creatively about your password, and don't use the same password across your accounts, okay? Next is to back up and store safely. You probably back up wirelessly. So if you've got an iPhone, you might be using iCloud automatically. For your laptop, your desktop, you can be using things like the Time Machine or other backup mechanism, like the physical hard drive, right? So just make sure at the end of the day, the drive gets unplugged so that it doesn't overheat, right? And you place it somewhere nice and safe, okay? Some people also do a secondary backup, like a backup is a tongue twister. Backup ang backup, parang ganyan, okay? So it may be placed somewhere outside your home so that in case lang, something happens with your home, like a fire or God forbid, anything else, at least your digital files, especially those precious memories, are still safe. Okay? So now that you've set up the environment, do these sound familiar? You may be hearing more of these things in your home these days. Just one more hour, right? So it's also important that we set the rules. So when kids know what our expectations of them are, they're more likely to be cooperative to you. So simply put, this is about agreeing to not only what they're allowed to use, but now because we're staying home a lot, you may be allowing them to experiment or use more apps than before. So I'm guilty of this too. So before, we had a rule like only weekends for gadgets. But, it's kind of hard to do that right now, right? Not everything needs also to be about entertainment. Some of that screen time could actually be very educational or can be used to keep your kids feeling connected to friends and family. So consider spending time researching, expanding to what you've said yes to, and what is it that they're allowed to use. So personally, for our home, we found a new game in Nintendo Switch. So I hope I'm not alone here, but we have been playing Animal Crossing. So my tip as a parent, well, my kids are still young, but continually challenge yourselves to step into their world so you understand what they like about the game. Why does it excite them? What aspect of it excites them? So that you can also refocus that into something more educational, maybe like a different kind of format. It also gives you like a common ground, more topics to talk about, like, and you might enjoy it. Just like in my case, I enjoyed playing it as well. Okay, when? So when are they allowed to use it? And especially now with kids being required to do distance learning, there is going to be a time where their screens are not just for the games that they played before, right? So now it's going to be used for Zoom classes. So they may be now associating screen time with something that maybe they don't like as much. So balance time for school and time for everything else. And yeah, allow time for fun time as well. So I think it's really going to be up to you and what your needs are as a family on the times that are most appropriate for them. How long? So duration is always an issue, right? One more hour. Prior to COVID-19, a lot of parents struggled with screen time, but now everything's changed. Before, I was also strict with this. What's important is that if you do allow more screen time, to also not feel too guilty about it, it's okay. And if they're on it longer that you would ideally want, I mean, no one's ever gone through this COVID-19 experience before. So just focus on the quality of what they're doing online versus the quantity of time online. Where? So where in the house are they allowed to use it? We've already talked about this earlier, but this becomes even more important because you may be trying to work and focus. So while they're trying to have fun. So make sure your kids are really clear about where in the house they're allowed to use it. And lastly, with whom? So with whom are they allowed to use it? Again, your universe may expand now that they cannot see their friends physically. Personally, my kids are very young, so everything they do online is still with me. But for kids with older kids, I mean, for parents with older kids, you might have to let them do activities like online games that you haven't done before. Again, please proceed with caution. So one example is, I have a friend who has a PSP account set up for him, and he lets his son play in that account. So obviously, the demographics of his friends in the PSP is not the same, right, as his son. And they also don't know that it's his son who's playing. So just be cautious about those kind of situation, and as much as possible, learn how to separate the accounts. So beyond setting these rules for your kids, it's also important to set the right example. So that means showing your kid that screen time isn't always just for having fun. It's going to be used now for things that are more productive, like school. So the example that you set as a parent or a guardian is going to be really important for grasping this new reality. And this is for all of us, even teachers, for yourself, right? Setting a good example. So set rules for yourself. Beyond setting rules for them, set them for yourself as well. If you do work from home, you now possibly have a very short commute. So hooray, no traffic. So you only have 2 minutes commute from work. And make sure that after work, you really have a way of disconnecting. So you have to shut down the computer and walk away from it. So for me, this also means like setting aside lunchtime. I want to keep it sacred. So as much this is not 100%, but as much as possible, I want to have my lunchtime, especially for eating with the kids. So I have to set an example for them. If they see me that I'm on a device while I'm eating, they would think that it's okay to do too, right? Next one is to respect each other's time online. I think this goes without saying. If you have older kids, and they wouldn't want you to be behind their shoulders, right? Watching their every move. So establish rules, use the necessary parental controls that we've talked about, and instill on them the discipline. Give them freedom while maintaining a level of trust. Give each other space. There will be moments where, because we're in such close quarters, where you want to be alone. We're going to need to respect that for each other, even for our kids. It doesn't mean hours and hours by yourself, but there will be moments when, you know, being solo is probably a healthy thing to do. And lastly, spend time together. This goes without saying, but not just doing things offline, like going for walks if it's possible in your subdivision or where you're at, and having meals with family members. There's a lot of great things happening also over Zoom. Like, for example, our family members that's not living with us, we can play together online. There's really some easy ways to stay connected and have fun. So take a deep breath. This isn't over. Not my presentation, but the pandemic, and we don't know yet when it will be over. But we can get through this. Be flexible and be patient with yourself and your family. If you set the right environment, set the rules, and set a good example, we firmly believe that this will help you in your home and your family having a more peaceful experience online. That's it for my presentation. Thank you. We're now opening our table for questions for our Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Ness. Thank you very much for that very fruitful and a very informative presentation. So let me just go through our Q&A section, and let's process the questions. So the first question is it true that deleted conversation in social media platforms such as Facebook can still be retrieved? Are there some humors before regarding, or rumors, I suppose, regarding this, because we don't know if it's true? Thank you. Okay, so that's the first question.
Okay. Personally, I haven't heard of it. So I'm not sure. I may have to research it. But if it is true, I mean, with social media, you always have to act responsibly on it, right? I mean, before commenting on anything, you don't want to comment on anything that you would regret later. So for me, it's best to really think about what you're going to say, because it's going to be there publicly. So I'm not sure if deleted comments can be retrieved, but it's better to be more preventive, right? I hope that answers your question, for the
Okay.
for the person who asked that question.
All right. Thank you, Ness. By the way, before we continue, I just want to remind everyone that some of your questions are already being answered by our subject matter experts from the panelist group, and that's why they're no longer in the window. You can check them out if that they are already answered. Okay. So the next question is, how would you address some parents' concern on the online distance learning when the parents are both working and no one can attend to for the assistance of their children during the online classes, especially that kids are all in primary level? Would it be better to let them stop for this school year?
Oh, I feel you, mommy. This was also our decision, because it's really hard, since they're going to be doing homeschool anyway. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done by us parents in this scenario, more than before, right? Before, we just have to take them to school and pick them up, or maybe do some costumes when they have a play. But now, really setting up the environment, and you also want to be there, right? Like most of the time. I think that's also like a concern, or like what the parents also want to do. But at the same time, you have work, right? So I feel you. I went through that decision before. Um, but for me, I think I had friends who continued on online learning when the pandemic happened. So their school still continued. And their piece of advice is that really kids learn fast too. So with if they're doing the lessons via Zoom as early as now, maybe you can have them learn how to type the meeting number and learn to mute and mute themselves, so you don't have to be really by their side 100% of the time, right? But on your question on whether it's better for them to stop this school year, I think especially for preschool, right, since it's not needed anymore, as I've shared with my youngest, she's only 3 years old. We were supposed to enroll her this school year, but we decided to forgo it first because it's not really required for them anyway, right? What we're after at their age for preschool is more for the interaction, the fun and games, the socialization, which kind of is not available or is not at par with the current setup. So I think it's a personal choice on whether you would want to stop them, stop this school year, or maybe just do some, more hands-on homeschool type of learning. It's your call. Thank you for that question, by the way.
Thank you, Ness. Next question. For setting up the environment, what will happen if I use the same password in my accounts, and what kind of dangers will I encounter?
Okay. So it's easier, right? When you have the same password for your accounts. But just think of, what if one website or one service becomes compromised? Then that would affect the others as well. So you have to change the password for everything else. So that's just my personal take. So don't share it across your different platforms or service. Thank you.
Okay. I believe this is related to the first question. How about if you use the same password because you tend to be forgetful? How can you avoid those circumstances?
Um, there's forget your password, right? In the services or in the websites, so you can take chance of that. You may also think of using like third-party applications for your password managers. But again, use this with caution. You really have to research first before you use a third-party app for managing your passwords. But it makes it easier, right? You don't have to remember everything.
Okay. Next question. Can you give your view on TikTok? Because it gathers personal data. How can we stay protected while using the app?
Personally, I don't know. I stopped using TikTok. Not for security concerns, but more of like, yeah, maybe the appeal of it. Um, Maybe someone from the panel has a more personal experience, but for me, for the security, I think it depends on you, really, on whether you would want to continue using it. Not sure with the others. How about you, Bob? Do you have experience with TikTok?
No, no, no. I don't use this. Actually, Ness, just to add to this, there's a very popular app right now called Face App, and
Oh,
there are mixed reviews
yeah.
about whether to use it or not. So I guess this
Yeah,
is also where this is coming from, because of personal
right,
data and because you upload your picture to a cloud. So
right. Personally, I try to stay away from those kinds of,
right.
in thing that's happening where you have to upload your face online, because it can really get your data, especially if you link it together with your Facebook account and you know that
Yes.
your Facebook has a lot of information on you. So I would say be wary about it.
Okay. Next question, Ness, is why should we update our softwares on Wednesdays?
So if you're using Microsoft uh, um, OS, the updates are usually happen every week on Tuesday. They call it Patch Tuesday. So that's when they would address the vulnerabilities that may be present with the OS version. So they update it weekly with new features, new updates, and that's when you should also update to after the Patch Tuesday happens. So that's Wednesday our time, Tuesday night their time in the US.
Okay. Next question. We still have time. Do you suggest that kids must have their own gadget, even for education purposes? Thank you.
Oh, for us, it was also a decision that we had to make. We have to make. Before this, our kids don't have phones or tablets, but the setup is both of us has to work now, and we cannot share our laptops with them because with her because we're going to do classes and work at the same time. So that's when we decided to buy her own device. So just balancing that. But if you have an available extra device that she can use, then you don't have to buy, right? Thank you for that question.
Okay. Thanks, Nas. Next question. In our school, ma'am, we do have internet because there's no signal. We do have internet. Okay, but we tried our best to find ways to have an internet connection, but it didn't work because the signal is hard to get. Do you have any suggestions, ma'am? What would be the best process to have an internet connection even if the location doesn't have a signal?
Oh no. Mahirap yan. Nako. Best to check with other service providers kasi maybe it's a location problem, like the current internet service provider doesn't really have the best connection in your school's location. But try to first raise the problem with them. Maybe they can help you with the problem. They can have send someone to troubleshoot, but at the worst case, if they cannot solve them, then you have to think about switching to another internet service provider because we do need internet for the classes, right? Thank you.
Okay. Next question. How do parents deal from the excessive usage of internet of their children?
Yeah, good question. So I think it's really about the things that we've talked about setting the rules and deciding early on that this is, this is our strategy, this is our plan of action. Okay, so you have to decide on what they can use, how long they can use it, because I do agree that prolonged internet access or even the gadget use is also not good for our kids, right? If they're going to be just there spending all the time, then it's not also good physically for them because they don't get to move around, and also it also has some impact, right, on their brain development. So I would say really encourage more activities for them. Maybe you can try new activities like baking or exercising or arts and crafts, right? If you have the time and you set aside the time to do it. Thank you for the question.
Okay, next question. Are there VPN products or for Trend Micro, and does Trend Micro offer a student discount?
Alan, can you help me with this question?
I think thanks for that question. This is Alan. I believe we don't have a specific product for VPN, but I do notice that there's actually a lot of questions asking for recommendations on what VPN software or free VPN software to use. So for this, I do really suggest for everyone to check out the internet for reviews of different VPN applications that really suits your need. However, since this is more of a security application, I would really suggest to really understand what you're getting into if you're considering free versus paid VPN service, knowing that this VPN application is something that you would like to add as a security. So I personally use a paid version of VPN. There are really some cheap or affordable options out there that you would like to consider. Now, if it's highly recommended, The use of VPN is highly recommended if you are connecting from and to and from between different devices. But if you're just normally browsing the internet, I think the secure socket layer or browsing through HTTPS should be fine. Okay, that's actually some of the questions answered already through chat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Alan, our subject matter expert. Before I continue, I just want to acknowledge those who are putting their comments on the in the chat section, and they're saying thank you, and it's very informative. Thank you so much for your feedback. It warms our hearts that you really appreciate this webinar that we're giving. Okay, so we have 3 minutes on the clock, and we have a few more questions. Ness, good morning. How can we assure that our pupils are the ones who answer the activities provided and not their parents? So I believe a teacher is asking this question.
I'm not sure how to answer that question coming from a teacher's point of view or perspective, but you may want to use like available tools for you on how, I mean, if I would put it like it's happening on the prior conditions, right? It's just the same, like with homework. How do you know that it's the parents who's answering or the students, right? So maybe for quizzes where the students really have to answer it, you can have it done in a platform where they really have to do it. I believe Google Classroom, for example, has that feature where they can have the webcam on, so you can see that it's really the student who's answering while taking the test. Thank you.
Thank you, Ness. Next question. What alternatives can we make as teachers for children in far areas where students don't have devices at home or even the internet?
I'm sorry, but I don't know yet how the government would also be able to help us with the far-flung areas, especially for those who don't have devices. I'm sorry, I cannot help you with the question. Yeah, we really have to be creative at this point because it's a really new situation for all of us. So we don't know yet the answers. Maybe, I don't know how we can help for those who don't devices. Maybe somebody from their household can lend them. Yeah, sorry, I'm not much of a help on that question. But
Okay,
I feel sad too. I feel sad with the situation. Yeah.
Yes, it's really a challenge for everyone. We have room for just one last question about how to avoid children from playing violent online games. So how to protect that.
Right. Yeah, it's actually really a concern because when they're exposed to too much violence, like you don't know, I'm sure it affects their brain somehow, right? That it's okay to do those things. I would really discourage from playing violent games, and it also goes to setting an example. You don't want them to see that it's okay for you to play those games too, right? So that's the first one, setting the example, and then you really have to explain to them why. I mean, in my experience, kids understand better the rules that you're enforcing when you explain to them the whys. Why is it not okay for them to play those games? How will it affect them? Yeah.
Okay. Actually, that's just as an additional insight because I am a parent as well.
Yeah.
What I do is I explain to my son because each of the games also have ratings for maturity that what he can and he cannot play, and it also goes back to what you were showing in your webinar earlier to set time and just to be disciplined with your kids in terms of using the computer or the console. So
Right.
yes, it is a challenge. Okay, so our time is up. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today, and we want to encourage you to do two things before we go. For those who need an e-certificate, just like to remind everyone, please fill out the survey form after leaving this session. Second, visit our Trend Micro Careers Philippines Facebook page and click Right PH Facebook page, or even suggestions for future sessions and a lot more of useful resources. Okay, you can continue to send in questions and concerns or even suggestions for future webinar topics, and all of these webinars are recorded and will be uploaded to our site. Okay, let me just very quickly share what you can expect to see, okay, when you do visit the site. So for example, hold on, just give me a few minutes.
Would you want me to stop sharing, Bob?
Yes, or you can go to that page actually, Ness.
I'll stop sharing.
Oh, okay, all right, that's fine. So let me just share my screen really quick. All right. And
People saying thank you in the chat. So thank you too for attending. It really warms our heart that you enjoy the session.
okay, thank you so much. All right, so if you see my screen, so as I mentioned earlier, you can visit those pages, and you can also, if the QR code doesn't work, okay, registration page is now open for upcoming webinars. If you can't access the QR code, you can visit our Facebook pages to get more details. And once again, for Trend Micro, this is Bobby Claudio on behalf of Nestle Angeles. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you for joining, and we hope to see you in our future webinars. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.